Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to another Cisco instructional video. Today I'm going to discuss the use cases for Cisco's Secure Service Edge, or SSE, as it relates to Catalyst SD-WAN. In just a minute, I'll start off with a whiteboard to talk through it, and then I'll go ahead and log into both Cisco's Security Cloud Control as well as Catalyst SD-WAN Manager, where I'll demonstrate how to tie the two together. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to start off with a whiteboard just to kind of talk through some of the concepts here. All right. So I'm going to draw a big cloud, which is going to resemble the Secure Access, Cisco Secure Access Cloud. Okay, we'll just call it SA for short. Down the bottom, we're going to have a branch site. And obviously, you're going to have numerous branch sites in your environment, and they're going to contain, one router, two routers, whatever your SD-WAN deployment might look like. So in this case, I'm just going to draw a single router at a branch, and I'm going to have the Secure Access Cloud sitting above it. Now, in order to get to the Secure Access Cloud, you're going to need some type of connectivity. So most people are doing, like a direct internet access model to get them to secure access. So we'll represent that with a simple line. Now you can have more than one internet connection, that's perfectly fine, but conceptually it's going to be the same thing. So you have your internet connection, and the idea is that, SD-WAN is not a new architecture, right? It's been out for many, many years. People have used it to essentially, for numerous reasons, to get multiple connections, whether they be internet, MPLS, LTE, right? Be able to steer traffic over one link versus the other. More modern day approaches are using it for a cost savings approach to essentially maybe phase out like an expensive MPLS connection. So a lot of companies are going to like dual internet connections, for example. And that's great, but as soon as you deploy an internet connection and provide access directly to the internet, you have to start to have the security conversation next. So that's kind of where this secure access bit comes into play. So the newer model that Cisco is using is essentially the SSE model, which all that means is that we're going to go ahead and send our traffic right from router 1 to the secure access cloud, and we can do that via a tunnel, okay? And then we can have the security stack sit up in the cloud. Okay, that's going to be, your IPS, your DNS filtering, URL filtering. The entire security stack can now live in the Secure Access Cloud, and it can be managed with Security Cloud Control, or SCC. So now you can essentially log into one place and be able to enforce the policy, which will then get essentially written down to all of your routers in your environment. Again, this is more SD-WAN focused, so we're not concerning ourselves with roaming users in this particular video. We're really just tying SD-WAN and Secure Access Cloud together for the SSE solution. So that's kind of conceptually how it's going to work. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and log into Catalyst SD-WAN Manager as well as Security Cloud Control, or Secure Access for that matter. And I'm going to show you how to build this tunnel or tunnels and essentially walk through the process of how to get to this particular model. Okay, so before we jump into the actual configuration, I want to share this website, which I will put in the description of the video as well. So this document is actually the step-by-step procedure that you're going to want to use to essentially do what we're discussing today. So if you look at the requirements really quickly, you can see that or I should say the components used, you will need access to a secure access tenant. You'll obviously need SD-WAN manager on release 2018 1 or later, and then you'll have to have some kind of routers to support. In my case, I'm using Catalyst 8KVs. So, you will need these components to be able to reproduce this on your own. And then it literally goes through and it tells you the steps that it requires to essentially get all this going. So we'll go through these as we go here. Let's hop over to the lab environment. So just so you can see, we're going to be focused on San Jose. So we're going to have this is a CAKV like I made mention of. It actually has 2 internet connections, and we're going to go ahead and spin up the secure access tunnels uh, to ride over those internet connections to get up to the Cisco Secure Access Cloud. So let me go over to SD-WAN Manager real quick. And if we look at Monitor, and I just want to show you, if we go to Tunnels, and then if we go to Secure Internet Gateway or SSE Tunnels, you can see there are none configured here. So we're going to hopefully change that in a few minutes here, but I just wanted to point that out. And then likewise, if we go to, this is the main page of Security Cloud Control under my tenant. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Secure Access. And I just want to show under Connect, Network Connections, and then Network Tunnel Groups. I just want to highlight that there are none configured. So we're again going to go ahead and do that together. So hopefully we'll see this populate with the tunnel that we're going to go ahead and create, and we'll change that here in a few. So let's go back to the documentation. The first thing we need to do is we need to do an API key from Secure Access Dashboard. So you can see it tells you to go to Admin API Keys, go ahead and add one, and then you'll affiliate the roles or scope that you want to essentially entail with that API key. And once you get the key and the key secret, you're going to need those 2 items as well as your organizational ID to configure the SD-WAN manager side. Now the ID is inside the URL like they make mention of. So if you scroll down, this piece here, the organizational ID, it tells you you can take that from the URL of your SSE dashboard. Okay, so you'll see a string of numbers, and you're going to want to copy that. That's going to be your organization ID. So those are the 3 items we need. Now, if I go over to my SD-WAN manager instance, if we go to administration, settings, and we go to cloud credentials, we can see that I've already done this. So you literally just check off Cisco SSE, and you go ahead and you populate those 3 pieces of information that we just discussed, and then you hit save. So I already did that piece. I don't need to do it again. So effectively, my SD-WAN manager can now communicate with Cisco Secure Access. So that is step number 1. Now let's go ahead and go over to configuration, and we're going to go to policy groups. And if we go back to the documentation here, so you navigate to configuration policy groups like we did, and then you're going to want to click on Secure Internet Gateway or SSE, and you're going to want to go ahead and hit the add or the plus symbol there. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to Secure Internet Gateway or Secure Service Edge. You can see I have nothing here. In my case, I want to do a Secure Service Edge. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And I'm just going to call it Branch SSE. For the solution, I am using SD-WAN, not SD routing. So I'm going to go ahead and create. And we're going to go ahead and just fill in the pieces that we have to complete here. Now, we're going to stick with Cisco SSE, not Zscaler. For the source IP address, I'm going to go ahead and make this device-specific variable. And that way, when we go ahead and push this policy down, I should be prompted to enter an IP address here. That IP address, if we go back to the lab, again, we're working with SJC. I'm just going to use the very first IP address in the /16, which is 10.3.0.1. That's what I'm going to use for the source IP address. And again, we'll be prompted when we do the policy push here in a few minutes to enter that. I'm not going to do a tracker. They do explain how to do the tracker in the documentation. I'm just going to skip it for simplicity's sake, but in a production environment, you're probably going to want to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and click Add Tunnel under Configuration. And I'm going to be creating 2 tunnels for high availability. So I'm going to call the first one IPsec1, and then likewise the second one will be called IPsec2. In my particular case, I'm using Gigabit Ethernet 1 and 2 as my 2 internet connections. So I'm going to go ahead and IPsec1 is going to be affiliated with Gigabit Ethernet 1. Under advanced, I am not going to change any of the options. I'm going to take them as they are. I'm going to go ahead and create a second tunnel called IPsec2, Gigabit Ethernet 2, and I'm going to add that as secondary. So I've got a primary, IPsec1 is going to go to the primary data center, IPsec2 is going to go to the secondary data center, and what we're talking about there is the Secure Access Cloud, or tenant there, if you will, so that we can get geographic redundancy across our 2 separate internet connections that we have at our branch site. For the region, I'm going to go ahead and globally select this, and in my case, I am closest to the US Virginia area, so I'm going to go ahead and say US Virginia. Now for the high availability, I'm going to add a pair. Since I created 2 tunnels, I'm going to go ahead and say IPsec 1 and 2, and go ahead and add that. So let's go ahead and save. Okay, so now we've created essentially the policy for the secure service edge. Now the only other piece we need to do is we need to attach that to the main policy group. So I'm just going to expand this, and for the secure service edge, I'm going to select the profile that we just went ahead and created, and I'm going to save that. So at this point, it is saved, and all we need to do is deploy it to our device. I've only got the SJC router tied, or that's the only one we're playing with, so I'm only going to push it to that particular site. Next. Oh, I got to enter the variables, which I didn't do. 10301, like we had made mention of. So that's the only piece of information it needs from me. So I'm going to go ahead and say next. Go ahead and deploy that. I'm going to view the status, and I'm actually going to bring up the console for that router just so we can kind of keep our eye on it. So I did a show IP interface brief really quickly because I want to make sure that this changes as we see this progress complete. So in the background, I'm just waiting for it to be successful. We can see that it is successful in the background, and we also saw the console messages come across, and it looked like we had got 2 tunnels that had been created, and it looks like they've changed state to, well, they're down right now. We got to give them a minute, because remember, this is going up to the Secure Access Cloud. So we got to give that a little bit of time, and hopefully without with any luck, we should see some action, and we should see those tunnels come up. So let's go back to Secure Access, Network Connections. So like I said, we're going to give this a minute here. Okay, so it looks like we just got 2 messages saying the tunnels are now up. So if we do a show IP interface brief, so as compared to from before, right, we now have 2 new tunnels that are up. So if I scroll up, you can see before we only had the SD-WAN tunnels that were up, but now after we push the policy down, we've now got these 2 new tunnels, which is a great sign. So if we come back to Security Cloud Control, let's go ahead and refresh the page. So it's getting there. So now it shows up. We can see our Catalyst 8KV is now listed as a network tunnel group. Currently showing status disconnected. Let's go ahead and view details. So looks like primary tunnel's up. We're still waiting on secondary. All right, so that's better. It took about 5 minutes or so, 3, 4, 5 minutes, something like that. But now we can see that I didn't do anything on the Security Cloud Control side. All I did was push the policy via SD-WAN Manager, and you can see that the network tunnel group had been auto-populated within Security Cloud Control. We can see that it's now connected to the region we selected, and if we go ahead and we view details now, we see that we've got the redundancy that we were looking for. So we have a primary tunnel. You can see it's connecting to the secure access cloud via this IP address, which is in one data center, if you will. And then the secondary tunnel connects to a different SSE data center, and it has a different IP address as well. So again, redundancy, geographic redundancy over 2 separate internet connections from the branch site to give you that resiliency that you need, right? Now, basically, I'm not going to go too much farther. I really just wanted to show you how easy it is to get your branch sites to connect to the Secure Access Cloud. But their possibilities from this point moving forward are very powerful. So if we go to Secure Access Policy now, and I want to go ahead and just kind of show you an example. If I create an internet access rule, and I'll just give it a name, SJC. Now I'm going to go into the from or the source, okay? So this is how powerful it can be, right? So I can now enforce policy on these criteria, right? So I can use service VPN IDs from my Catalyst SD-WAN manager or environment, I should say. I can use a network tunnel group. So notice my tunnel group from that router is automatically populated inside of Security Cloud Control. So again, I can start to enforce policy from one central place for my entire environment, and I never have to leave Security Cloud Control to do it. Very, very powerful. Again, now you're able to control your security stack in the cloud from one place, and you're not going to have to worry about that dispersed security policy across your entire environment. So again, I know this is just a tip of the iceberg here. Let me go back to SD-WAN Manager just to kind of show you the before and after there as well. So in the beginning of the video, when we went to monitor tunnels, and then we clicked on SIG SSE, there were none there. Now you can see that we've got 2 tunnels created with secure access. The only reason they're degraded is because I'm not doing the tracker, which I skipped on purpose. But if I put the tracker in there, it would be state up and it would not be degraded. So I hope this has been informative. I'd like to thank you for checking it out. I look forward to seeing you in future videos. So take care. Thank you.